With the start of a new season, that means we can start looking at new builds with all the things they have added, from our new strand aspects from all three classes to a few of the new mods they've added, and of course the artifact as well. But today we're going to be looking at the Strand Hunter and its new aspect, Threaded Specter. But before we get into all of that, of course, like, comment, and subscribe helps me a lot and it goes a long way. And let's have a quick word from our sponsors. The first thing we're going to talk about today is going to be the new aspect itself, Threaded Specter. Activating your class ability leaves behind a decoy woven from strand matter that draws the attention of nearby combatants. After taking significant damage or when combatants approach, the decoy detonates, dealing damage and releasing threadlings that seek out and attack nearby foes. This, along with the other classes' new strand aspects, are obtained from the Puka Pond on Neptune after completing the quest from Nimbus that has you helping Osiris with unraveling more information about the Veil. This new aspect is the first type of anything we have in Destiny that can pull aggro of enemies, and it works so well. While testing this, as soon as I dropped the Specter, the enemies just stopped looking at me and immediately started focusing on that particular thing instead. Also, in PvP, it does an extremely good job of tricking opponents and making them push out only to get met with threadlings that it spawns, and it also has a health bar, it pings enemy radars. It's a very, very good decoy. When it came to making a build around this particular aspect, I tried 6 Coyote, and it does indeed spawn 2 Specters, 1 for each dodge. I tried it with the newly reworked Radiant Dance Machines and was very disappointed when it couldn't spawn more than 1, so I decided to use kind of a relic from the past and go with the Bombardiers, which comes with the exotic perk Parting Gift. Dodging leaves behind an explosive that detonates after a short delay, damaging targets around it and creating a secondary effect based on your subclass energy type. For Arc, it's going to blind, Solar, it's going to scorch, Void is going to suppress, Stasis is going to slow, and Strand is going to sever. Since we are using Strand, we're going to sever targets when this bomb goes off, and this will do damage to our Specter, leaving it very weak and much easier to detonate with damage, which we can do with ourselves by shooting it if enemies are too far. But if you do it right in a group of adds, the bomb will detonate, severing those targets and allowing the threadlings that the Spectre creates to do a fair bit of damage and finish them off easily. Inside of PvP, the bomb plus the threadlings is going to one-shot pretty much everybody. I didn't test this against overshields, but Guardians with 10 resilience are going to get one-shot by this combination, making it a pretty good option in PvP as well, because again, the Spectre does a very good job of being a decoy. As for weapons, pretty much any strand weapon is going to do you very well with this build, but again, I always recommend Quicksilver Storm as it is one of the best exotics to pair with any strand build. It's an auto rifle, so it has anti-barrier on it this season from the artifact. It shoots missiles every 12 shots or so, which loads grenades into its alternative fire that do a ton of damage, and with the catalyst, those grenade kills turn those targets into tangles, all feeding back into your strand subclass. Our artifact setup for this build is very simple. First, we're going to take the melee and strand mod unlocks, which are going to make those related mods much cheaper, and with the buffed threaded spike melee, this is extremely helpful. We are then going to take improved unraveling, which will increase the damage dealt by unraveling a target. There's a bunch of ways to unravel a target from abilities, fragments, and aspects, but the easiest way this season will be with the next mod we have, that is Strand Soldier, which when we get woven mail in any capacity, our strand weapons will be granted unraveling rounds when we have our strand subclass equipped. These two mods will play very well into each other and the build. The final mod I want to put into this build later is going to be Squad Goals, which after performing a finisher with either Devour, Amplified, or Woven with the respective subclass, it will grant those buffs to your allies. Since we're trying to keep our woven mail up so we can give our weapons unraveling rounds, when we get a finisher, we are then going to give our allies that woven mail as well, and they can be on any subclass that they want to be on. Moving on to our class setup, we already talked about Threaded Specter and how it is important to this build and how it is the main focus of this build. We're also going to be taking Widow's Silk, as that grants us 2 grenades, and that is very helpful. I ran Shackle Grenades because they're very strong against champions and other players, because the suspension debuff that it applies is just really, really strong. For fragments, we're going to take a look at Thread of Evolution. Threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage with a +10 to intellect. Since our Spectre drops threadlings when it gets destroyed or when enemies get too close, we can get more out of them with this particular fragment, allowing them to deal more damage, which is going to allow you to get that easier one-shot inside of PvP. And the +10 to intellect is always very nice because our super on the Hunter class for this subclass is extremely potent. Thread of Mind, defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. Since our Specter comes from our dodge, we need to find ways to get it back as fast as possible, and having those 2 shackle grenades to suspend targets makes this an obvious choice to get those easy defeats and that easy energy. Thread of Rebirth, strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a threadling. Since I'm using Quicksilver for this build, we're going to have a chance to make those few extra threadlings to feed back into evolution. Now, if you have a legendary auto or any other weapon you want to use this season with hatchlings, that is also going to be an amazing option, as you will have the chance to make 2 threadlings on a precision defeat, one from hatchlings itself and one from the Thread of Rebirth. Finally, we have Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power grants woven mail with a -10 to resilience. When going over the artifact, we said that we needed to find ways to get woven mail so we can get Strand Soldier to get those improved unraveling rounds, and with this we simply can by picking up an Orb of Power, which we're going to make a ton of when we talk about our armor mod setup. So with this, it's very simple. Pick up an orb, get Strand Soldier to give you those unraveling rounds. Unraveling is going to do more damage with improved unraveling, and getting a finisher with squad goals is going to give our allies that woven mail as well. Now, of course, this is all supported by our armor mod, so starting with our helmet, we're going to slap on hands on to get some super energy from that melee, which again feels really good since it got that buff. Strand Siphon, so Quicksilver can make orbs to help us get woven mail as well as our super. And we're also going to run Dynamo, which will reduce our super cooldown when we dodge near targets, which is the whole point of this entire build. Dodge near targets, get the parting gift to go off and sever them, have our threadlings then destroy whatever targets are left. On our arms, we're going to run heavy-handed, so again, we can make orbs of power with our super strong melee. 2 stacks of focusing strikes, so when we get hits with our melee, we get a reduction to our class ability. Also, since our melee hits multiple targets, it hits that maximum effectiveness of what it can give back a lot quicker, but it is extremely helpful. For our chest, we simply have charged up to hold more armor charges and our resist mods. Again, you can change this for whatever content you want to run. For legs, we have stacks on stacks to get the max stacks of our armor charge a lot faster. We also have a double stack of insulation to further help our class ability. You can swap these out for innervation so you can get more grenade energy if you want, and I probably will do this in the future as well when Grandmaster season comes along. And finally, for our cloak, we have Reaper. So when we get a weapon kill after dodging, it makes an orb, utility kickstart, so we can get class ability energy back when we use it, making it so we can throw down our threaded Specter and our parting gift much more often. Lastly, we have distribution, which will give us a cooldown to all of our abilities when we dodge. Now, if you don't want to use distribution, I highly recommend using the new powerful attractor mod, so that when you dodge, you pull all nearby orbs to you, feeding into your armor charge system, making it so then you can get your max stacks of armor charge and then be able to dodge for utility kickstart almost immediately. I will definitely be using this for this build when Grandmaster seasons comes, so this way I don't have to run out and die for my orbs of power to feed into my build. And speaking of build, that is the end of our build. Hopefully you found this enjoyable. You are going to use this build maybe even just a little bit and see how good it truly and really is. I honestly forgot that Bombardiers is as good as it is, as I've always just written it off as a gimmick exotic, which again, I really like these gimmicky exotics because that's what I make a lot of my builds around, so people can see that, hey, it may not be completely meta, but it is still extremely good and very usable. So with that, again, that is the end of our video. So like, comment, and subscribe. Check out those links down in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video.